It's finally here, boys. The Leopard 2A6 with its L55 cannon has been added to the game, boasting the same mobility and armour as the already proven Leopard 2A5. However, this beast has a better gun with more modern ammunition. Is this increase in firepower such a game changer, and should this tank be the first vehicle you grind this patch? Alright lads, today I'm going to be talking about the performance, weapons and playstyle of the Leopard 2A6. Starting as always with the basics, this vehicle is a rank 7 battle rating 10.7 medium tank located in the German tech tree. Being a rank 7 tech tree vehicle, it will come stock and you'll have to grind out its modifications to unlock the full potential of this vehicle. It will also only be effective at researching other vehicles between the ranks of 6 and 7. To unlock this tank, you'll have to grind out 400,000 research points before purchasing the tank for a cost of 1,030,000 silver lions. You will then have to crew the vehicle for the cost of an additional 300,000 silver lions. To purchase the Expert and Ace qualifications for the tank, it will cost you 1,030,000 silver lions and 2,100 golden eagles respectively. You also have a fairly cheap repair cost of 5,386 silver lions, but as this tank has just been released, its repair cost will most likely be substantially increased in the coming months. Going on to the rewards, and the vehicle has a base RP modifier of 2.38, which gives you an RP modifier of 238% with a free-to-play account and 476% with a premium account. These RP modifiers are very high and give the Leopard 2A6 a good grinding potential. Going on to the Silver Lions, and your reward modifier of 1.5 is pretty good. You can expect a 150% Silver Line modifier with a free-to-play account and 225% with a premium account. Looking at the customization, and we have several camouflages available to purchase, including woodland, desert and winter camouflage schemes, with my personal favourite being the 3-tone Kark. Okay, so starting as always with the engine and performance, and just like the Leopard 2A5, the 2A6 is powered by an engine producing 1,500 horsepower. However, due to the 2A6 weighing slightly more, at 60.1 tonnes, the vehicle has a lower power to weight ratio, with 25 horsepower per tonne. While this is pretty good, the previous Leopard tanks will feel slightly better to drive. Moving on to the transmission, and we can see that the Leopard has a top speed of 68 km per hour. With your rather high power to weight ratio, you do reach that top speed pretty quickly. Like the other Leopards, this tank has a respectable reverse speed of 31 km per hour. These decent top speeds, both forward and reverse, give you pretty good tactical mobility. You can easily push and then pull back over hills and around corners, making this tank very flexible on the battlefield. Being a top tier NATO main battle tank, the Leopard naturally has the ability to neutral steer, giving the 2A6 excellent mobility and manoeuvrability by Soviet standards, but compared to some other NATO tanks, it does feel a little bit sluggish. Overall, the Leopard 2A6 is fast enough to serve a tactical purpose. While it doesn't have the nimbleness of a T-ATE or an M1A2, it has good top speed with workable acceleration, allowing you to rapidly respond to an ever-changing battlefield. Moving on to the armour and survivability, and the first thing to mention is that the Leopard 2A6 has a crew of 4 men. Conveniently for the enemy, the driver, gunner and commander are all lined up, making you an easy kill if a round actually penetrates the left hand side of your vehicle. Like the M1 Abrams series, the Leopard has blow-up panels in the turret bustle. This is where the majority of your ammunition is stored. However, unlike the Abrams which stores all of its ammunition in the turret, the Leopard can only carry 15 rounds in its turret bustle, with the remaining rounds being stored in the hull to the right of the driver. This means taking more than 15 rounds into a battle will result in your tank becoming a rolling ammo rack. Alright, so moving on to the AM performance itself, and to test this, we will be using the new 3BM42M round as fired by the T90A. Starting as always with the lower frontal plate, and you can see that the armour protection ranges from 130mm all the way up to 400mm of armour. Like several other NATO tanks, the upper frontal plate is relatively lightly armoured, only giving you around 440mm protection, pretty weak compared to most Soviet top tier tanks. The upper part of the hull is also relatively weakly armoured, particularly around the driver's hatch, as it provides only around 110mm of armour. Moving up to the turret, and the cheeks are pretty much immune to all rounds in the game. As you can see here, the turret provides over 900mm of armour protection. Like all other tanks, the turret breach is a weak spot, providing just 300mm of armour. When engaging a Leopard from the front, shooting the tank underneath the gun here, or just below the driver's vision port is the best way to kill or incapacitate this tank. Moving to the side of the vehicle, and protection decreases substantially, down to around 60mm of armour on the hull, but if we move up to the turret, the protection at the front is actually pretty good, but as we move down the length of the turret, your protection decreases substantially, down to around 260mm in the crew compartment and only 60mm around the ammunition bustle. And finally, the rear of the turret provides 66mm of armour, and the rear of the hull provides just 21mm of armour. Overall, the armoured protection of the Leopard 2A6 is identical to the Leopard 2A5. However, with the addition of modern APF SDS rounds for all major nations, the effectiveness of the armour metal within War Thunder has been slightly decreased. While the turret remains very strong, the hull of this tank, and on all preceding Leopard variants, is now essentially a low pen. If you're going to try and use this tank's armour, I'd suggest staying hull down at long range. Don't rely on your armour in up close brawls. Moving on to the weapons and ammunition, and as you can see, the Leopard is armed with the Rheinmetall 120mm L55 cannon. Being a modern vehicle, the gun is fully stabilised in both the vertical and horizontal planes. The 2A6 also has the NATO standard 20 degrees of gun elevation, but a slightly below average 9 degrees of gun depression. While this is worse than the NATO standard 10 degrees of gun depression, it is still acceptable. You can carry 42 rounds in total, with 15 of those rounds being classed as first stage ammunition stored in the turret bustle. As I mentioned earlier, carrying any more than 15 rounds means ammunition is stored in the hull, making the tank very vulnerable to enemy fire. Taking a look at the reloading skill under the loader section, and we have a base reload speed of 7.8 seconds, and with an ace crew, that drops down to 6 seconds. This reload rate is around average for top tier. You do beat the Soviet 7.1 second autoloader, but some other NATO tanks have 5 second reload. Moving to the targeting skill under the gunner section, and we can see that you have a base turret rotation speed of 28 degrees per second, which rises to 40 degrees per second with an ace crew. We next move to the modifications, and I want to point out that this tank gets access to a laser rangefinder, first generation thermal imaging for the gunner, and second generation thermal imaging for the commander's sight. As well as these thermals, you also get a nice wide field of view in the gunner's sight, as well as a base 4x zoom and an optional 12x zoom. This makes spotting and eliminating enemy tanks quite easy. Moving on to the ammunition, and we have 3 rounds available, 1 stock and 2 unlockable. Your stock round is the DM12A1 heater fast shell. It travels at a muzzle velocity of 1140 meters per second and can penetrate 480mm of armour, a pretty bog standard stock round. Luckily for you, you have a tier 1 APF SDS round. This is the DM33 shell, and it should be unlocked as soon as you have parts and FPE. On the previous Leopard 2A5, this is the upgraded round. However, as you have a longer barreled gun, the DM33 round actually performs much better, travelling at 1690 meters per second and capable of penetrating 496mm of flat armour. And against armour angled at 60 degrees, it is still capable of punching through 287mm of armour. Your last unlockable round is the DM53 shell. This is new to War Thunder and is now the highest penning round in the game, being able to penetrate 652mm of flat armour. And against armour angled at 60 degrees, it still manages an incredible 377mm of armour penetration. This is an amazing round and can penetrate most opponents from the front. However, against tanks such as the T-72B3 and T-80U, aiming at weak spots is still required. Overall, the firepower of this tank is exceptional. It has a high rate of fire, combined with an incredibly powerful choice of shells. Both of these factors, combined with the decent thermals, excellent zoom, good mobility as well as workable armour, make this tank one of the best all-rounders in the game. To conclude, the Leopard 2A6 is now one of the most powerful tanks in War Thunder. It has a near perfect balance of firepower, mobility and armour. It isn't even a jack of all trades, master of none. It isn't perfect at everything, but it's pretty damn close in all aspects of tank design. The tank feels great to play, it is fast and it is fun, and there isn't really any other tank on the battlefield that you fear running into, as your high penetration round can take care of pretty much all opponents from the front. As with all tanks, there are downsides however. Compared to some of the other NATO main battle tanks, as well as the Soviet vehicles such as the T-80s, the 2A6 is a little bit sluggish getting around the map. The thermal optics are also pretty low resolution for top tier. There are several Soviet tanks that now have 3rd generation thermal imaging, as well as decent armour and high penetration rounds, making them arguably better in hold down defensive positions. With the 2A6, Germany now has 4 main battle tanks that are effective at top tier, as well as probably the best light tanks in the form of the TAM-2C and the Radkampfwagen 90. And with the addition of the new battle bus anti-aircraft system, top tier Germany is suddenly looking incredibly competitive. Because of this, I'd fully recommend grinding this vehicle. It offers you a substantial increase in capabilities over the previous Leopard 2A5 with no real downsides to the vehicle. The tank plays well in both realistic and simulator battles, and as I've said, I've had a lot of fun playing this tank, and I hope you will too. It's important to remember that this is just my opinion. What do you guys think of this long boy? If you have any questions, criticism, positive or negative, I would even like to request a review, then please feel free to comment below. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If I did my job correctly, hopefully you should have learned something new about this vehicle. If you do enjoy these sort of videos, please do consider leaving a like and subscribing. But more importantly lads, I hope you have a great day and thank you very much for watching.